Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of True Dungeon Talk with Trent. My name is Trent of TrentTokens.com, and I'm a big fan of the game called True Dungeon and a very avid collector of tokens, which you can see a bunch of right back here. And in today's special episode of True Dungeon Talk with Trent, I'm interviewing the voice of True Dungeon, the man behind the many, many voices that you have heard. You might not have met him before or seen his face, but I know you've heard his voice, and I'm going to be showing some of those and listening to some of those clips with you today. And hello, everyone in the chat. Oh, speaking of that, don't forget to do that clicking and subscribing and sharing. It's very good for the show and spreading the love of True Dungeon. But without further ado, let's meet the man, the voice of True Dungeon. Say hello to Rob Ramsey. Hello, Rob. The audience loves you. Oh, look at all that clapping. I bet you didn't know I had such a big audience, huh? Look at that.
That's right.
Welcome to the show, Rob. How you doing?
Not so bad, not so bad. You good?
Every day I wake up is a good day, and any day that I'm talking or playing True Dungeon is a great day, and talking to you makes it even a better day. How about that?
Oh, thank you.
For everyone, I've been trying to get Rob on the show for a long time, and this is a great accomplishment. I feel like this is a feather in my cap. I'm so happy to have Rob on the show. I've heard his voice in countless different adventures, and so have you. So today we're going to talk about Rob, some of his behind-the-scenes work, and get to know the man and all that other different things that he does behind the scenes. It's going to be really great. But first, let's say hello to people in chat. Gilstrife, hello, and Corey and Chris Amir and Tom. Oh, hello, everybody. Hopefully you guys are going to have a good show. If you have any questions for Rob or myself about True Dungeon, real life, etc., just type in question and then type your question in the chat, and we'll go from there. So, Rob, I have to get the ball rolling here. I have some what I like to call icebreaker questions. Would you mind if I do a quick little icebreaker with you?
Please do. Go ahead.
Okay, off we go. All right, so these are going to be very difficult, and you can get them in. They can be wrong too, so you should be afraid. Hello, Brad. Thank you for joining. All right, so favorite color.
Oh, it's going to be a deep red. That would be even like a blood red color.
Okay, that's acceptable. Your favorite book or favorite movie?
Okay. I like the Expanse series, but in terms of books, I don't think you can go far wrong with The Lord of the Rings, so that's good from there.
Okay.
Favorite movie would have to be Back to the Future.
Oh, now the first one, I assume.
Well, yeah. I mean, of the trilogy, that is the classic. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Now, when you said Back to the Future, did you mean the first one, or did you mean like the whole series? This is, we must know.
You can't really separate it out, but the
Really?
classics, right? The first there, yeah.
Okay,
It's all a big story.
Got it. All right. The last show that you binged watched?
I'd have to say that recently it's been Halo. I've been watching.
Yeah. Oh, Katrina says hello. Hello, Katrina. All right, so
hello,
correct. Halo is correct. I actually watched the latest episode today. Cats or dogs?
Cats for me. Yep.
Okay. All right, correct. Name of your first pet.
Colin, and he was a black and white cat.
Colin.
Yeah.
I had a black and white cat. That was my first cat as well, called Abraham. And it turned out Abraham had kittens. So, yeah, I didn't know boys and girl cats when I was that young. All right, favorite type of music?
Like metal grunge, really. I think I was going to say metal there, but it's more on the grunge side of things. Pearl Jam being the favorite band.
Okay, all right. That correct answer. Favorite food?
That's pretty much an easy one there. It's a ham sandwich. I've even got a book about. Oh, sorry, Trent. I think you just dropped out there for a second.
Oh, favorite hobby. That's the final question in the icebreakers.
Oh, favorite hobby. I like miniature painting, but gaming, that's got to be the biggie. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Now, if anyone has any questions in the chat, let me know. Let me look at my signal here because you said that I dropped out. It looks like my signal's good here. So yeah, if anyone's having any signal issues in chat, please let us know. Of course, if they're having signal issues, we might not know that. But everything looks good here statistics-wise. All right, now speaking of people in the chat, Rob, compared to me and maybe some other people in the chat, I notice an accent. I mean, my detective spidey senses are going off. So Katrina says it did stop for, no, Brad rather said it stopped for like 3 seconds. So yeah, something was going on, but looks like we're okay now. That's what happens live, right?
Exactly.
So Rob, you have an accent. I don't know if anyone's told you this before. I guess somewhere where you were, no one else had an accent, but here you have an accent. So people in the chat, do us a favor. Can you try to guess where Rob's accent comes from? Who knows? Anybody?
Keep talking a little bit to give them a bit more of a clue there. Just keep going like that. So
oh, yeah. So Rob is talking now to figure out.
That's your hint, if you would, as to the accent of where I'm from.
Now, while people are trying to guess, Katrina has a question. Do you have a favorite accent besides your own accent?
Oh, wow. I can do a few, as you'll probably find out as we go through this. But I don't know. I can do all sorts of stuff. I've been trying to go for like a South African, if I could try and do a South African character at some point. So it's like that. What would that be? Right, we're looking to do some sort of work here. I sound a little bit like Joss Eklund in the Lethal Weapon movies, that sort of thing. So I want to sort of incorporate that into a it's not a great South African accent. If there's any South Africans
it's much better than mine and anybody else's, I think, that's within earshot of you. So we have a couple of guesses. Brad's guess is quite wide. He says Earth. Is it an Earth accent?
I mean, he's not wrong. Let's face it. That's at least half a point there, surely. Yeah.
All right, so we're narrowing it down a little bit. We have another guest here from Larry. Hello, Larry. Larry says Dublin, Ireland.
Ooh, nice. I like where we're going with that one. I like how that is. I'm not saying yes or no, but I like where that's from. Yeah.
Okay. So he's not saying that's his or not. And we have one more guest here from Katrina. She says across the pond.
Well, there's a lot of ponds. I mean,
I'm with you. There's a lot of ponds.
You can
what
go
pond?
Either side on this one. So be a bit more specific with your answer, Katrina.
All right, let's tell the people here where you are from / where that accent is from.
All right, so this is southeast England. So not everybody in London sounds like Dick Van Dyke and all that sort of stuff, and you don't have to sound like Colin Firth or someone like that. All this sort of thing. This is an Essex accent, so down South England. That's basically it.
I see. So, do you think because it's the southern portion of England, why you often get mistaken for somewhere else? Like I think you said, you're mistaken for Australian often.
That's the biggie. I always get mixed up with being from Australia, and then my typical response to that is that must have been where we sent all the convicts from, with my part of the country. Yeah, good old British Empire there. Well done.
Oh, I know. I love the memes where they say they go to some museum, where they're in whatever country that's not, the UK. Oh, look, this is the museum of all the things that were stolen from us. I think that's always nice.
Exactly, yeah. Everybody has a flag? Nope. We'll put a flag in it. We say we own it.
Yep, we claim it. All right. So
great times.
Speaking of your real life, so that's where you're from. What is it that you do in your real life, like your real life job, etc.?
I am an all-in-one video producer. I'm like I go by Rob Swiss Army. I'm the Swiss Army knife of media production. Anything from audio, video, script writing, filming, editing. You name it, I do it. With the company I work at, with the assistance of one of my colleagues there, Brian. He's the creative manager there. and he does like lots of the graphics work, but he also helps me out when we're on shoots. It's very difficult to do a one-man shoot on certain things, though I have done a lot of those. But he helps out with audio and helps out with like making sure the cameras are right when I'm doing the like either the hosting or the interviewing, whatever needs to be done there. But other than that, it's just me, and definitely the only editor there. I love doing editing. I mean, that's what I've always done, 20 odd years of it, and then back in the UK, the same thing. So yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. That is a lot of work for anybody. If you know, that is a lot of work. Now, let's see. Speaking of Aussie, somebody from Aussie says Australia has a lot of people from England that managed to escape from the cold, dark UK. Oh, I can see where his alignment is there. That's Brad, Aussie Brad, by the way.
That's fine. Absolutely, I agree with that.
Now, so that's your job in real life, and now you also have a beautiful wife in real life. And what is her name? Speaking of your wife,
this is Laurie. She is from here in Indiana, and we've been married since 2001. I was actually in the UK when I sort of like contacted her first. It's a bit of a nerd type story there because this is before the days of internet dating. So yes, essentially I met her on the internet, but not in the traditional manner that you'd think of these days.
Mm-hmm.
So I was being like the consummate nerd that I am, was trying to find out about the new Star Wars movie, which at the time was Phantom Menace. And I was speaking with all these folks online, which was all typing through ICQ, if you remember that back then. And it was on a dial-up connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to find out any details about the new movie, and there was various folks coming back to me, and then this one person came in and they seemed to know a lot more than me about Star Wars, and I'm thinking, well, that's not right at all. So I start hauling out encyclopedias and saying, yeah, but did you know this? Like that. And they're like, yeah, but did you know this? I'm like, yeah, I didn't know that. So long story short, it was Laurie, and I think essentially our first interaction was kind of an argument about Star Wars.
Great.
So yeah, since then it was just Laurie and her family were able to come over and see the UK. So we went and did all the touristy things I've never done before because I live there, and then we were just back and forward. Got a relationship going. Went back to the UK after we got married over here in 2001. Stayed there for a couple of years, and then moved back over here where it's not as rainy and dull.
Wow. And she helps you out with some True Dungeon stuff and photography, etc., right?
Oh, yeah. Tends to come along on many of the shoots. When we're doing True Dungeon stuff, we'll go to Gen Con typically as our main convention. And she's like the eagle eyes and the photography and stuff like that. And while I'm doing all the video stuff that we'll probably get into in a little while, she'll be like, oh, no, get this. You've missed this, or there's a great shot you can get from here. And while she's doing that, she'll be getting photos and stuff like that. So yeah, it's like having a spotter essentially. It's great.
Now I have met her, and she's taken one of the best photos of me ever that I've ever seen. This being one of them, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, you're there with that wonderful that beauty next to you, and I'm not sure if anyone knows who that is, but
can you explain what's going on here?
Sure can. I think it was last year we were at Gen Con.
Gen Con, and,
there was there was a group of Jeff's friends and some of the people that he knew very, very well, and they were going to go and do one of these runs. And one of the rooms, who Katrina, who's on here, she played the Pain Demon in that room, and together with another girl that was doing the Pain Demon as well. But Jeff decided that he would swap out and be that Pain Demon. So we all went back to makeup, and Jeff got all dolled up in all this gear, and he had a little this funny little tentacle thing that he was swinging around the place, which was a little bit kind of freaky. But Jeff then became the Pain Demon for that room and just dived out in front of everyone. Everybody was laughing, and it was absolutely great. But when he finished, he came out, and that's where you came into the picture.
Yeah, I was running into him. I think I was meeting with someone that was in that group who ended up giving me one of the rare tokens that I was missing from the very early days, and a number of other things, which was amazing.
Really?
So Gilstrife says another Lori. There can only be one. Are you saying that they need to fight to the death? I don't know. I think the world can handle two Loris.
Once the two of those, both lorries get together, I mean, it is very, very scary. Yeah, they both have that same sort of attitude, sort of thing like that, and they're great friends as well. So yeah, whenever Laurie Martin is around there, Laurie Ramsey will not be far behind. She'll be
excellent. Well, that's what happens when you marry beautiful and intelligent women. And Katrina says that photo has so many layers. Yeah, figuratively and literally. I believe he was wearing something that quite one would be able to call a dress, if I'm not mistaken. There's chains, that feather contraption there. It was a lot going on.
There was a lot of it's called props. Let's say.
Yes, yeah. Props. Now we have another question here. Chris Walker, who I believe is hello, Chris. Thank you for joining. Who I think Chris. is from your world, and he yes ask: is it true that you always record in a Speedo?
That'd be a question with Chris. Sadly, no. Though it can be done on request for you, Chris, if necessary. So yeah, fine.
So that costs extra, Chris. Checks are accepted. Larry says, "Will you be at Gen Con this year? What character class do you prefer to play?" Interesting question. Ooh. Two-part question.
Wow, yes. Look at that. We'll be in, we presume we will be at Gen Con this year, yeah. If I were to play True Dungeon, my typical class would be Ranger. That would be where I would be sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay. And let's see. So now speaking of playing, you also are a big fan of board games and that other kind of genre stuff. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did you get into board games? What is it that you love about board games?
Well, really, I mean, board games, always loved them since I was like a real little kid. But as soon as it got to those things where you could get like the D&D sort of style game that came out, and then like the tabletop stuff, that was great. Warhammer, when that started to be a big thing back in the late 80s, I guess, with nice sort of stuff there. But recently, and I say recently, probably like the last 15 years, Fantasy Flight stuff with Eldritch Horror, Arkham Horror, any of the Lovecraftian stuff. I love the Lovecraft sort of genre. So if it's anything to do with Lovecraft, chances are I've probably got it. And yeah, just
interesting.
Pretty much everything that there is there. So yeah, cooperative board games, love them.
Now, was it you that we were talking about Dark Age of Camelot, or is that a different person I was talking to?
That's someone else, I think.
Okay, sorry. What? So, do you play MMOs at all? MMORPGs, those kind of computer games? Because that's my thing.
Right. It's funny, but the old game City of Heroes from way back in the day, that recently got a bit of a revival because
on the Homecoming server,
dropped the code out. Exactly. Yeah. That's a biggie for me. I mean, the graphics aren't great, but the gameplay is wonderful, and all the folks that actually play that game are so fun and friendly, and you can just find a group wherever. They don't necessarily have to be your friends and stuff like that. It's always been a great game, and they've just had a recent update, so that's been a lot of fun there. But other than that, Skyrim, Fallout, with, if you want to call it its faults, I still enjoyed it. So
all good.
Anything along those Bethesda lines. So yeah.
No wonder I like you. Of course. Chris says, tell us about City of Heroes, but you already did. Yeah, if you've never played City of Heroes, it's a very cool game. And there, as you said, there's a resurgence. Search Google Homecoming. You can play for free. It's awesome. When it first came out, I didn't have time to play it. But recently, when I heard about the resurgence, I actually dabbled a little bit. It's quite fun. Now, speaking of True Dungeon and your work, how did you what was the first time you heard about True Dungeon? How did you hear about it?
This was amazing. This actually happened. So as I say, media producer by trade, and we do a lot of things which are local feature pieces, things like that. And one of the things I suggested was let's go and take a look up at Gen Con, because it's a great gaming event and it will be something that maybe some folks don't know about. So I go up to Gen Con with a couple of my interns, and we did a probably like a what was 2-part piece on like Gen Con itself. So I went and interviewed some of the game designers, and I walked along, and I think it was Hall H at that point. I might be wrong. This is back in 2013. But of all the folks that I saw these couple of folks that were dressed in like Renaissance type gear, and they were outside this big hall. There was all these noises going on inside, and I believe it was Allegra Torres that I saw outside. And I said, "What is going on here? Can we get a couple of words?" And right then was the first introduction to True Dungeon. And I think my first words to the camera when we're doing that piece was like, "Anybody got an idea what True Dungeon is? No? Okay, well, let's find out." And that's when it first started. Went back into the actual True Dungeon area and then spoke with Jeff, got some words with him. And since then, I think I did another piece in 2014, and then it started the ball rolling of, hey, do you want to do some promos for us? Can you get some videos together, like some teaser videos? And it started to go from there. And then, I ended up doing various other bits, as we will probably get to in a moment. So yeah, that's
very cool. Now, speaking of someone not hearing about True Dungeon, for someone who's never heard about it before, how would you describe True Dungeon?
Well, the first thing you've got to really think about is that it's like if you've ever been to an escape room, but it's a sequential thing. Mm-hmm. If you like Dungeons and Dragons and you like escape rooms, you are going to absolutely love True Dungeon, because you've got 7 rooms of this and you don't know what is coming next. It might be a puzzle, you might be fighting a monster. Something is going to be there, but the puzzles themselves, they're so intricate. Jeff comes up with these amazing puzzles, and it is so intricate, and you might think you've got it right, and then there'll be like a little twist on there, or maybe it's just so easy that you're trying to overthink it. So an escape room with a True Dungeon, with their Dungeons and Dragons overtone. I think that's a great way of putting it.
I like it. Yeah. I like it. So if anyone in the chat has any questions for Rob, please let me know. Now, speaking of getting to something, I want to show the audience this. Let's and Katrina in chat says you might be fighting me, as in fighting her. She's has been known to be one of the monsters. Chris says, are there opportunities for people to get involved / volunteer, etc.? I think that's
that's like a seeded
you go
question.
Ahead. You
there,
answer.
Really?
Go for it.
Yeah,
how would you answer
perfect.
that question?
Yeah, absolutely. True Dungeon always looking for volunteers, whether that be set builders, people that put the actual event together during like a convention or something like that. Anyone that wants to be an NPC, to actually like dress up and be a monster, to be a DM running one of the rooms, for instance. We've got folks behind the scenes, or like the folks that do makeup, stuff like that, coordinators. There are so many different roles you can be, and quite frankly, if you like anything to do with this genre, there is going to be a position for you to volunteer. And it's so much fun, because the group of people that we've got there, and sometimes we have like 300 odd volunteers, and you can just go up to any one of them. You may not have met them before, but they know you're part of the True Dungeon thing, and it's just boom, you're immediately friends, and it's great. And it's just trying to get people happy about stuff. It's a great experience as well anyway, just for the fun of it, but just seeing the players as well when they come in. And there's so many different things you can do as a volunteer. It's great.
I'm going to put I think it's put in the chat the website. I think it's actually tdvols.com. Yeah, so I missed an S on that first one. Can I delete that? Let's see. Pin message remove. Oh, I think I can. All right, so we have someone who's, let's see, their name is John, and the question is, why is John your favorite TD employee? That's a very deep question.
How is John spelled? Is it Jon or John?
HN.
Then
not your favorite.
This may be this may be because he's the kind of person that can jump through a window in a virtual True Dungeon piece without getting injured. How about that?
By the way, when I saw that, I thought, God, I hope they put a pad back there. But then I thought, you know what? I bet they didn't. They didn't. Ah, John.
For the folks watching, who may not have seen or been in that particular adventure,
Yeah.
there was a scene in one of the pirate adventures where our wonderful NPC prop person John had to jump through a window, and we've got various people behind the window. It's a real window; it wasn't CGI, and he actually jumped through said window. And I was getting this video of that, and everything was like silence after it was done, and no one was moving, and John wasn't moving, and Laurie's standing by there. My Laurie, she's standing by there. She's like, John, you okay, buddy? And he was just like, yeah, I'm good.
Oh my God.
Just completely stayed in character, just making sure that the shot was finished. So
I would
kudos
have
to them.
lost my mind. The director and producer and safety Boy Scout in me, I would have lost my freaking mind. All right. So speaking of someone who's a good guy, Steve asks, do you like playing or volunteering more? Hello, Steve.
Hi, Steve. Yeah, great. I have played a few times. I enjoy playing, but I really do like the volunteering aspect. Mostly, I'm pretty much documenting what's going on through like Gen Con or something like that. So to make sure that I've gone through all of the different dungeons and make sure that I've like captured some footage from various folks. There's some behind the scenes stuff that I'll probably mention later on. But I'd say the way I'd like to explain it is that players come through and visit True Dungeon and the world of True Dungeon, whereas I live there. So that's the way I'd kind of explain it.
Interesting. Gilstrife asks, what was your favorite run?
Ooh, let's see. That's going to have to be the one with the Rainbow Bridge with the Valkyries.
Oh, 2018.
That was the one. That was absolutely incredible. That it was strange because that's the first one that I've seen that has been more brightly lit than Dark Dungeon. Yet it still worked. I think that was in the very much in the Patrick Rothfuss genres and stuff like that. So that was a fun. I think it was the Bliss. That was the one, and yeah, that's the one I enjoyed the most. And I think that Rainbow Bridge was an amazing rune as well.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, they really kicked it up a notch that year. All right, so I'd like to show the audience this. So everybody get your ears and eyeballs ready for this interesting little clip here. Here we go.
Welcome, adventurers. This is the final chapter in the epic saga against the Semi-Lich Batarak. Welcome, adventurers. This is the final chapter in the epic saga against the Semi-Lich Batarak.
Oh,
I look
that's
so
so
mean
cool.
when I do it, don't I? I just really.
I know, you look very angry. You're very angry about what's happening. So tell us, what was that? What did we just watch / listen to? I love it, by the way.
That's pretty much the introduction to one of the particular virtual True Dungeon pieces. And you get everybody started off, and it's very interesting to try and work out what kind of voice you're going to use for the different characters. The narrator at that point needs to be someone that's just like bring everyone in and a bit more of a boomy type voice. It's just, I don't think I could have gone with like Dungeon Master from the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon back in the 80s. That wouldn't have sort of kicked the adventure off so well. So it's just that little bit more of the welcome adventurers. That sort of feel to it.
So how do you come up with the different voices? Is there stuff written about the character and then you work on it that way? Or tell us your process.
There's like 95% Jeff in this. He'll have like something written down. He's got a character in mind. With the narrator, that's pretty much a given. That just like sits there as like a kind of like the average voice, but just with a little bit more authority. But when you have like a certain monster or a certain NPC that needs a voice, Jeff will give me a little bit of leeway, but he's like, well, it needs to sound a little bit like this, or try and add a little bit of this to it. And there's been a few during the years. At this stage, do you want to reel off a few of the ones I've done, or do you want to leave that?
Sure, go ahead, tell us.
So I've been the voice of Gib Gub. That was funny. The voice of Grunnel, Nimblewit, the ogre fellow, and then Batarak. That's been the biggie so far as well, and I think we'll get to him later.
We have a couple of those voices that you just mentioned that will play, so that's very, very cool. So we have a question here from Hello Belinda. John says Gib Gub sucks, and Belinda asks, how did you get into doing voiceover work?
I don't know, really. It's one of those things. It just got there. I do a lot of professional voiceover work just generally as well, not just at the work that I do, but just as a side project. So really, as long as you can read a script but don't sound like you're reading, it just flows and it works well like that. And that's the problem. And sometimes some folks do that. When you hear some of these voiceovers on YouTube, it sounds very, very red and wooden. And if you can get away with doing that other stuff, I'm not sure how well I do if I read an entire audio book, but just start recording bits and pieces like this. And I think when it first started was when I was doing narrations and voiceovers from some of the video projects I did way back in the day, over 20 years ago. You'd need a piece of voiceover, and you just had to get it sounding right, and you just do it again and again and again, and then you realize you can do it. So it's just something that's just kind of happened over time, really.
Got it. Okay, great question. Great question. Cool. Speaking of Grunno, here is Rob as Grunno in the patron run of last holiday season I think it was December, the Grunno's holiday special. So let's take a listen to this.
Oh dear. Here I was about to make my mother's favourite fruitcake recipe when I had a bit of an accident. I dropped this container of dark rift powder upon my table, and in my hurried reaction to grab it, I knocked all my spice bottles out of my magical spice rack. If these spices are not put back in their proper spots, the magic won't work, and I won't be able to finish this fruitcake in time. We must give it to the Winter Witch before Gifting Day. Maybe then she won't use her magic to stop the celebration of Gifting Day. Oh dearie dear. Do you think you could help Grunnel figure out what places all the spice bottles go back in? I can remember a few things about where they need to be placed, so I wrote them on a scroll. Maybe this can help you. Oh dear.
Very, very cool. Yeah, that was a puzzle room, maybe room 1 of the patron run, if I recall, or at least one of the puzzles.
Right. Yeah, 1 or 2. Yeah.
Now, how did you come up with the Grunnel voice?
Oh man, right. First off, I always, if there's Grunnel going to be involved, and I've got other voiceover work to do the other voiceover work first, because after about 3 rooms of Grunnel, you can't say a thing. Your voice just gets ripped apart. There's nothing left. So it's very, very difficult to do Grunnel's voice. But yeah, when the wonderful little goblin himself decided to make his first appearance, both Jeff and Laurie was like, well, he's a goblin. He's like, I don't know, can you do something that would sort of resemble maybe Dobby from Harry Potter? And I was like, yes. So it's a lot of
I hear that now. Yeah, now that you said that. Yeah.
Borrowed from there, but with I think a little bit more cunning involved, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, very, very cool. Chris asks, do you get to improvise, or is it all scripted? If it is scripted, do you participate in the writing process? Great question, Chris.
Again, it's more like the back end stuff is with all the TDHQ stuff like there. So it's Jeff and the main crew. They come up with the script. There's a little bit of leeway, like if things don't sound exactly right, or if it's a little bit awkward or something like that, I can use a little bit of poetic license there and change a few words and stuff. But typically the wonders and the intelligence of all the script writing comes from the Jeff side of things over there, and the TDHQ folks.
Got it. Fred says, hello, Fred. I'd love to hear outtakes/bloopers. I can see some of these getting really silly. Maybe we should do a little, behind the scenes video clip of that. I don't have any of that, Fred. Sorry.
Sadly, we don't have any of that right here. But from voiceovers and stuff like that, there's definitely a couple of bloopers. Typically, and I want to sound like I'm great at this, but typically it'll be something else that's happened in the recording area while I'm doing it. Like there'll be a cargo past or something like that, and then there'll be probably a few swear words being said by myself in a regular accent, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there's definitely, just as a side point to that, there's definitely a lot of outtakes.
This is my main setup here, and then I have a overhead setup right there, right next to the window. So New York sounds happen a lot when I'm doing like openings or whatever. Now, speaking of doing all this other work that you've done, one of the things that I'm sure you're wonderfully proud of is a documentary that you did. And here is a photo of you. Actually, why don't you tell us, what is this photo? Where are you? And who's in this shot here?
All right. The gentleman at the back there is a 98-year-old World War II B-17 radio operator called James Hutchinson, or known to his friends as Hutch. And he's written several books. You can find his books on Amazon and stuff like that. He's written all the stories about like during World War II and such. But I picked up one of his books when he was at a book signing here in Indiana. He lives very, very close to where I live. And I just wanted, I'm a very, very big like World War II buff, and I really wanted to start to tell his story. So we did a couple of little pieces with him, and then I was able to go with him in a B-17 bomber, which is the plane that you see right there. And right there, we're actually 5,000 feet in the air above Bloomington, Indiana. And we've got a documentary that we put together, about an hour long, and it just tells the story about what he used to do during the war and his tales like that. And he knew everything about what he was doing. He sat there at the radio station. He was telling us all about it. And yeah, absolutely great guy. And right now, literally, as we speak, he's getting an award at one of the places down in Bedford, which is just close to here. It's about like 30 miles south of here.
Wow.
And I've done a recorded piece where I introduce him so that he's going to get his award there. So Rob's live essentially in two places at once. Right
I
now.
love it. I love it. Now this shot here, boy, ooh, that's quite a bank happening.
Yeah, this is one of the shots that was a little bit freaky. I mean, the first thing is when you go into B-17, you have to sign a waiver, and you're actually in what is called an experimental aircraft because it's so old at that stage.
Wow.
And we were allowed to go into the cockpit there. We went down into the front of nose of the plane, and we were able to look through the bomb sight, and there's just glass around you there. And that was incredible. And then I think you've got another shot in a moment. And this is the one that really freaks you out. They said, right, we're going to take out the top window. And it's like, okay. And they said, right, if you want, you can stick your head out. And I was like, all right. Well, when you're in the plane, you don't realize that you're not like, the ground is not where the ground should be. So I stick my head out, and the ground is here by the side of my face. I'm like, oh, like that. But just to have your head out of the top of a B-17 bomber at 5,000 feet, that's something that I didn't expect to say that I would ever do. But,
wow.
Yeah, that was an incredible experience, though. Absolutely incredible.
So just to make sure I get it here, your head is outside of the plane in the wind of the B-17 bomber.
That's where it was. That's not where it is now because we were so afraid that the camera was going to go with it. Behind you there, you can kind of see the shoulder of one of my interns that was with me, Theron.
Wow.
Bless him, poor fella. Didn't do so well on that one. Was a little bit airsick, let's say. So, but yeah, we both had a great time up there.
Oh my Lord! Oh my, that's quite the experience to say the least.
Oh yes.
All right, so I want to get to another one of your cool voices here. All right, so and again, if anyone has any questions in chat, let me know. So let's listen to another clip and see if people can recognize this voice.
Much to my surprise, your pitiful band of nitwits managed to survive to see the entrance of my final tomb. You have done well to recover the sword of virtues which may protect you from my attacks. Nevertheless, it is doubtful our coming combat will be more than a minor amusement to me. So I am going to give you opportunities to earn some magical protections for our upcoming confrontation. In the next 4 chambers, you will face puzzle and foe. And should you vanquish these challenges, your party shall gain some benefit. We will first start in this chamber, where a test of wit offers up to 5 protective wards. Best of luck, my amusing rabble.
Oh, wow. So you do the voice there, but you also make the video and pull in the graphics and edit and the whole thing. Is that right?
Yeah. So what we have again back at TDHQ, Jeff kind of sources some of the graphics, and the rest of the TD team sort of like source the graphics, work out what sort of things they want, and say, oh, well, we need like an effect here that does this, an effect here that does that. So we have a library of different things that we can use, and then I just take that like concept, get it all together, make it work, and then like submit it and say, right, what do we think of this? And there's a bit of a review, and it's like, yep, that's good. Don't really like that. Let's change that to a different spell, or let's change that to a different effect that does something a little bit better there. But with the voice, it was like, oh, this is going to be the semi-lich. This is going to be the big bad. So what kind of voice would he have? I guess my sort of description of Batarak's voice is it's a description, or it's a conglomeration of Skeletor and a Klingon with a little bit of reverb. So that's how I describe Batarak.
Wow. I remember it was definitely a scary NPC and very challenging. It was really great for the whole story. I thought it was, one of the best voice parts of any of the dungeons. So it was a great big bad. Tom asks, question, which TD voice was the hardest to do?
Taxing on the voice would have been Grunnel, but Gib Gub was interesting.
That was kind of like it was supposed to be an old professor with that kind of voice like that.
And then I pitch shifted it up just slightly and made it a little bit faster. So if you remember when the squirrel first arrived,
right, in the forest, we meet him in the forest.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm not sure that everybody was expecting him to be sounding like that, but yeah, that's what we went for. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Bach Aiden asked, what has happened with the Gen Con anniversary video you were filming in 2023 and Promise Store volunteers? Vanessa.
Oh, let's see. 2023 stuff, there was a little bit of stuff that was a little bit too dark there. We've had a lot going on. So there is definitely footage there. I mean, I was there the whole, 3 days that out of the 4 days I think we were there. So the stuff is definitely there. It's just, it's been a little bit more on the busy side of doing virtual TD as well, because that's another thing that's...
Got it. It's on the list.
As we mentioned before, yes, it is on the list. The footage is there, and we'll definitely be able to get some bits and pieces from that. So, yeah.
That reminds me, you shot an interview, or... I don't know what you want to call it.
Documentary.
No, I mean it was me, Jeff, and it was supposed to be Stefan.
Oh, yeah, the
Peter.
20-year retrospective, essentially.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, you shot that too. So yeah,
right.
You're all over the place, man.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's something else I want to show people. Now you are known to bring tea to the backstage crew, and there's some people that enjoy tea time. Explain what that is.
Yeah. So being British, by law, I have to drink tea.
Okay.
So
it's a law. Got it.
It's black tea with milk. It's PG tips, but that's not necessarily has to be. But it's one of the things that I grew up with in the UK there. But I will typically have a massive amount of that with me whenever I come to Gen Con. And generally, a lot of the folks there will be like, "Hey, Rob, can I grab a cup of tea?" And it's like, "Yep, absolutely. I'll always bring enough for everybody." I know Barry's a good one that likes to have some tea at the style. There's Barry and John there. We're enjoying a little cup of tea right there. Not the great cups that I would have usually brought, but it's a convention. And I know John Cook is another great friend of tea, as well as Mike Nagley as well. So yeah, it's
okay.
It's the beverage that keeps you going. Caffeine and tannins.
Wow. Now, do you say cuppa? Is that a word you use when referring to tea?
Could be used, yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that works. You want a cuppa? Yeah,
want a cuppa?
Yep.
So, besides bringing tea, you also do a lot of behind-the-scenes photography and video, or is it mostly video? Because here we have a couple of photos of that.
Yeah, so mainly I'll try and document from a video standpoint on what's going on. From the photography standpoint, that's more the Alan, Ali, Gabriel,
right?
They're the great guys for the photos there. Laurie will help me when she's getting photos with like the support to what I'll be getting. So that's my side of things, and I've tried to do some sort of overview of what's happened if there's a Gen Con event, because that's typically the event that I will go to. So it'll be some sort of video I've done there. I mean, we've done videos since like 2015, and typically instead of it being like 1 or 2 minutes, one of them's about nearly half an hour long. I think the 2018 one was about half hour long, and I think the 2019 was about 25 minutes. So the videos are out there, and I try to get interviews with the NPCs and some of the folks that play. And there's probably many of you out there that have been either on that or got a cameo role in there somewhere. So yeah, it's always a lot of fun, and I always make sure that the folks are good to be on video before they go out onto that big video itself. So yeah.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I've definitely seen you doing this. Like for instance, here's someone. What are you shooting here? What is this?
Yeah, we were. This is back in 2018. I think this was the 2018 one, and that's Sarah Ekstrand there, playing one of the Valkyries. Absolutely incredible. We got a great shot of her with like the bow staff and just like twirling that around. That was incredible. Sarah's gone off now. She's doing stunt work now, which again, that's pretty good stuff as well. That's amazing, the stuff she's doing there. But she was a great NPC, and again, that's something that all the NPCs that put so much work and effort into their character to make it theirs, and you get that across the board. It's just such a great feeling, and just to actually be able to document that's just something else as well.
Right. Now, speaking of one of the great people behind the scenes, who are we looking at here?
Classic. The awesome, legendary Stuart O. Every year he will have his kilt on. And at this stage, it was just like I've got like Scottish roots being Ramsey. So it was just like, yep, nice to see you've got the old tartan on there. People say, that's plaid. It's like, yeah, it's tartan. So that was it was good to see Stu sporting some traditional wear there. That was great.
Awesome. Now, speaking of another amazing volunteer, what is this series of photos we're looking at here? What is this?
Yeah, we didn't have the chance to get the video ready for it, but luckily enough, Laurie was able to snap some sports shots there. It's like, this is Mike Nagley's Baywatch audition, I think. Something had gone wrong in the dungeon, and he just booked it back to the makeup area, the green room there, and as soon as he got whatever he needed, he just did the same speed back again. And if nothing else says dedication, the looks on those faces just tell you right there where it is. So yeah, that was an amazing shot to get. He didn't even have a chance to like look over. We just made sure we got it and pieced it all together for him.
I wonder, let me try to I think I'm going to try to zoom in on this here. There we go. The look of determination.
That's right.
I love it. It's kind of like, one of those, Tom Cruise movies, right?
That's it. Totally, yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Now, speaking of your favorite run, I mean, this is one of my favorite shots of that room. Look at this. And Laurie took this, is that right?
Yep. Laurie took that one. It was just, I mean, it's a great shot as is from just like showing what that room was, but if you weren't there to see that particular room, there was a lot of fog there at one stage, and when you first entered it as a player and you see this fog just like roll away and then these rainbow colors just like appear, it was that was a room, that was an amazing room.
Yeah,
so, that was And a good puzzle as well, that one as well.
Definitely good puzzle. I really enjoyed this room. I mean, what an incredible room. All right, if there's any more questions in the chat, please let us know. I'd like to listen to one final voiceover, and there's a little bit of a video with this as well. Let's listen in.
In the darkest hours. Evil is that woods, corrupted, fouled with dark magic, I say. Only the bravest or most foolish souls dare walk its paths, and they say a great beast dwells there. The monster is said to have been accidentally created within a cursed druid circle, when a dead man was supposed to have been reincarnated into a giant spider. But by the foulest of deeds, something went horribly wrong. For the cursed stones warped the druid's magic, and the simple giant spider was twisted into a gigantic and corrupted bogwood beast. It is said to be the size of a potter's cottage, and folks say its horrible face can drive even the most stoic adventurer to utter madness. If fate deems you ill, and thus you find you must journey into the bogwood, be at your guard. The bogwood beast is said to be ever watchful, ever twisted, and ever hungry.
Wow. So scary. So tell us what that was. And there, so much going on there. There was a soundtrack. There was obviously a voiceover. There's the video clips. I mean, for anyone who's done any editing, that's a lot of work. And you did all of that. Is that right?
Yeah. Again,
crazy. Really good.
Stuff like that from Jeff. And then that was the promo for the Bogwood Beast Virtual True Dungeon. Went with a little bit of a Jon Snow type accent for that one. Just the really sort of like the haggard adventurer that had been there and maybe faced it and somehow got away, but just never was able to defeat it, that sort of thing. But just to give that bit of atmosphere and that thing before you actually go into the adventure, just to get people hyped up, that's the sort of thing you need. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, an awful lot of work that goes into it. But at the end of the day, if people have fun, that's it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, it was really great. I remember watching that, and I mean, it was amazing. And I think it was, how can I say, it portrayed what we were up against very well. It was a very difficult monster who was the final boss, and I played at a couple of different levels. And at each level, in like normal and hardcore and nightmare epic, it was a formidable beast. So at my lower levels, there was a lot of deaths going on. So that video production quality there was matched the strength of that final boss very well. So nicely done. Peter K, a buddy of mine, a work buddy, says cheers from New York. Cheers to Peter. Thank you for watching,
Thanks,
buddy.
Peter.
This is Rob. He's the voice of True Dungeon.
Awesome.
So if there's any more questions in the chat, let me know. I have a couple of more questions here. What would you say keeps you still involved after all this time with True Dungeon? What is it that keeps you coming back?
It's to me, every virtual adventure or every convention, the new adventures that come out there, it's like getting that brand new board game and just opening that up and seeing what that is. The fun of seeing what it is and then being able to actually produce that and put that all together. And then if it's virtual, you don't get to see that as much from my standpoint. I do if I sit in on one of the runs, or if I go through one of the runs, I can see how players are enjoying it. But when you're in a live environment and when you're there at one of the conventions and you see the players enter the room, and whether it's just like a smaller room or whether it's one of these really intricate sets, and there's that kind of that look and the when they see what that room is and just seeing that excitement. I mean, there's nothing like seeing that people are happy and having fun. That's really what does it for me.
Very cool. I love it. All right. How about, do you have any terrible or good, terrible would be better, stories about Jeff or Lori that you want to share with us? And don't worry, they're not listening. And nobody will say anything.
I wouldn't say there's anything terrible as such. I mean, they always they look after everyone. Everything's great at all the conventions and stuff. One of the funniest things, though, I mean, there's been so many, but we were sitting back in the makeup area, and Jeff had got a moment away from the dungeon, and he was just like, as I would put it in British terms, dibbling about at the back of this room. And I think it was the costume for one of the swamp monsters was there, that kind of like that ghillie suit, all sorts.
Oh
of
yeah, sure, yeah.
Laurie's doing some work back there. She's trying to organise all these folks, and Jeff like puts this costume on and starts going like that. Laurie just looks up from her desk. She looks at the camera and just goes, and then just goes back to what she's doing. So that just kind of said it there. That was the whole thing right there.
So I think what you're saying is Jeff does nothing for the whole show, and Laurie's running the whole thing. That's what I'm hearing.
Now, I'm not saying anything without my attorney present. It's one of those things you can't say. But no, everybody works so hard to get that to work, and I mean, you know how well that goes.
Okay.
It pays off with all the fun players and the fun that the players are actually having. So yeah.
It certainly does. It certainly does. Okay, so here's my final question for you. But before my final question, let's get to the chat here. Steve says, do you have a character that you would like to voice that could be put into TD? So something that you, from your outside, that you want to put into TD.
I'm not sure. Really, it's a case that I would like to use that South African accent with something. I don't know how that's ever going to come into sort of like a medieval setting like that. But I don't know. If I was a live NPC, I would like to be probably one of the like maybe the knight in the promo for the Bogwood Beast. Maybe he tried to fight something and didn't manage to do it, and just tells players, just be on your guard when you go through to this next area or something like that. He's just like war weary. He's had enough, that sort of thing. I think that would be a nice sort of character there. But yeah, I mean, really, I'm up for any sort of character, and I can build anything around whatever the magic of Jeff conceives.
Got it. I think maybe subconsciously you have brought in those outside voices, so it probably happened already.
Quite possibly, yeah.
All right, so here's my okay, I lied, that's 2 questions, but next to the last, the martini, for those in the know. For someone who's interested in volunteering but who hasn't yet, what would you tell them?
Just flat out do it. If you like the sort of like the D&D background of anything like that, if you like that sort of genre, you get to volunteer and be a part of this, and you get to meet so many amazing people. You get to be a part of so much of this great game that is being played within this stuff. There's benefits there as well, whether it be like the tokens you get. You get some tokens. You get special like swag. There's all sorts of other benefits. There may be like hotel stays and things like that. I know with Gen Con you get like a badge for the actual event, so you'll do your shift and then you can wander around the convention center. There's no downside to it. I mean, all you've got to do is turn up for your shifts and be good at what you do. And even if you've never done this before, they're not going to just say, "Oh, right, now you're doing this." It's you're going to be at 100%. You've got to do it this way. You'll learn as you go, and that's like that stands to show with the folks that have been there for just like years and even decades. Yeah,
though the volunteer crew is amazing, and True Dungeon literally wouldn't exist without the volunteers. So if you're interested, you can go to tdvols.com. I shared that link in the chat. And speaking of links, I just shared 2. Actually, before that, Katrina says do it. So Katrina's a longtime volunteer as well. I just shared two links in chat. One of them is a 2018 documentary that you made about True Dungeon. And also Hutch, you did a documentary about the Greatest Generation, a World War II doc, and Hutch is the main, the guy from the photo we saw is your main character there. Anything else you want to say about that True Dungeon documentary or the World War II documentary? You want to share with the audience?
Really, I mean, they were a lot of fun to put together. Again, the World War II thing being my passion. The 2018, I was very, very proud of that, just because of the diversity of the dungeons that were available that year, and we got a lot of great interviews on that. So it's worth a watch, definitely worth a watch. And if you've not volunteered, you'll see why you need to volunteer by seeing that one.
Yeah, what a great one to do a documentary on. So I watched it. Yeah. It's very cool. The documentary with Hutch is amazing as well, especially if you're a World War II buff. So I highly recommend both. That's why I put them in chat. So my final question is there anything that we haven't covered about anything, background, True Dungeon, your real life, your lovely wife Lori, the world, your other hobbies, anything at all that we haven't discussed that you would like to share with us? The floor is yours.
I mean, there's so much to go for, but really, I mean, this is about the True Dungeon thing. So I would say that really, from a True Dungeon standpoint, I couldn't have worked with a bunch of people that are any better than this. It's so fun to meet new faces, see the old friends from years back, and they're still there. And again, the volunteering, you just got to do it. It's great, and I hope to see you there at the next Gen Con.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's wonderful. Well, there you have it, everybody. Rob, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing awesome information behind the scenes and, having proof from the horse's mouth that Jeff does nothing at conventions and Lori runs the whole show. You heard it here first, but I think people already knew that anyway. So no backsies. You said it. It wasn't me. And thank you, everybody, for watching here and listening to Rob. Rob, thank you very much. Until next time, I will see you, I'm sure, and hear you in the next virtual, and I'll see you at the next convention. Thank you very much, Rob. You have a good one, buddy.
Thanks, Fred. You. Thanks, everyone. Take care now. Thank you.
Okay, bye, buddy. All right, well, that was Rob Ramsey, the voice of True Dungeon, literally. So how cool was that? And thank you, everybody, for watching the show. Please click the like and subscribe and share and all that other algorithm stuff to help spread the love of True Dungeon. I really, 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 really appreciate you watching the show. It means a lot. And hopefully you can continue to spread the love of True Dungeon, because I just want to get the word out. It's just the greatest game ever. The most amazing community ever. And if you haven't played, if you happen to be watching this and you haven't played, give it a try. It's something you have to at least experience once, and I'm sure you'll love it. And for everybody else who has played, please spread the love. And don't forget one of my most favorite things to say: it's very difficult to frown when you're smiling, so please smile.